Hello. People often ask me how I came to meet Victor. And I had been doing this class at a place called Amron, which was a metaphysical church. And the class was called Angels, Fairies, and Dwarves. I really enjoyed giving that lecture and workshop, and I had all these colorful slides, and we would have in-depth discussion about everything from the worldwide phenomenon of little people and how also angels are a worldwide phenomenon, though they are called different things in different cultures. And so I really enjoyed doing this. I had a shorter presentation on a Tuesday, and it was on such evening that Anadea Judith, already a well known artist, handed me a small card with the name of Victor Anderson on it with a phone number. "What is this?" I asked. "This," she answered, "is the name of a fairy priest. Not quite the way that you might think of, but I think speaking with him, you would get information that could add to your class. Yet mainly, I think that you would be a good distraction for him right now, because he has just lost someone who is very dear to him." I had no way of knowing that this was Tom DeLong, aka Gwydion Pendragon, who was like Victor and Cora's adopted son and longtime childhood friend of their son Alon. He grew into a well-known musician and fairy teacher in his own right until his tragic and untimely death. It was but a few days later, and one timid phone call later, that opened the door to a wonderful friendship and mentorship. Victor was a storehouse, a treasure filled with myth and science and history and mysteries. They were all jewels of knowledge and pearls of wisdom. That warm, strong, resonant voice that answered my phone call was not only a pleasure to hear, but to my awe, this was a guy who really knew what he was talking about. A part of that first conversation, oh so long ago, was about the history of humankind. "How long," he asked me, "do you think that mankind in all its varying human-type forms has roamed this earth?" "Science says about 1.6 million years, but I think it might be a bit older myself," I answered. "Well, I'll make you a bet that in the course of my lifetime that I'll get it about right." He twinkled at me with a rascally grin. 20 years later, 2 days before he died, I am reading to him out of Discovery magazine about the latest human fossil find in the heart of Mother Africa. He snapped to attention. "How old? How old did you say?" 5.6 million years, Victor," I answered. Victor started to chuckle. "Must be getting time to go. They almost got it right." Victor told me that archaeologists and many other types of scientists in the next 20 years after he would pass would discover the evidence of the many things that he had spoken of. And I would also like to share with you out of this book the tail end of, well, actually, it's the beginning of the end. And I called this chapter The Last Days. Victor's passing was a total shock to most, but not to me. That was because of the events preceding it. It was in the late summer of 2001 that he had a far-off look in his eyes, and he told me that the vultures and ravens were gathering. I said, "Oh yeah, it's the time of year for crows and ravens, but it does seem to be more of them than usual this year. Vultures I don't know about." in a low, even, cold voice, making the hairs raise at the back of my neck, he intoned, "They will come, dressed in black and brown and gray, and they will come bearing sweets and tears. The crows and ravens will fight for their place, but the vultures will pick and tear for power. Their shit will desecrate the power of truth and make a mockery of the beauty of the goddess and the power of the Lord. And they will feed the evil that wishes to destroy humankind with their arrogance, their ego, and their greed, for they do not even understand or even know what to truly value." My blood turned icy, and I felt fear run through me. "Victor, are you speaking of your death or some sort of prophecy?" My voice was broken with emotion and concern. "She has been calling me for a while now. She sends her heralds. The blackbirds are for me, I know this. Yet something else is building, and I'm not sure what. The months pass, and I am awoken by a phone call early in the morning before 7. She is calling me. Who's calling you? The goddess. She really wants me to come home. I sit up in bed trying to pull my thoughts together. Victor was reaching out to me as a friend, and I had to have my wits about me. Victor, she's always been your beloved lady. I am sure she does not wish you ill. What has happened? I was traveling in my spirit body, and I find myself standing at the shore of her silvered sea, and she emerges out of the most beautiful sunset I have ever seen in a purpled sky. And she tells me that it is time to come home, and I say, 'My lady, I feel a great turning of events here upon the earth.' And she says, 'Yes, this is so. You have done your work. You need not be troubled by the sadness that will come.' I begged her, 'Stay thy hand. I need to be here. I need more time. I wish to help with what is coming.' She was silent and softly said, 'Victor, your body is wearing down, so even if I grant you a life grant, which is your right to ask, the strain of what is to come will shorten your days as well, especially since it will stress you in spirit as well as in body.' 'I understand, my lady,' I told her. And she then became the sunset, and I awoke, and I called you. What do you think this means?" I was a little shocked by this question, but I answered him the best I could, and this is very close to how our conversation went. "Well, Victor, from what I just heard, she seemed pretty clear to me." "Yeah, dang it, so I guess I'm done for." "Well, not exactly. You know how I feel. We humans, we could easily live to 130 to 150 years, and I think we should live for 250, come to think of it. Yet I've heard you complain about the body you have many times, so now here's your chance to pick up a new young one." Victor snorted. "It may not be exactly perfect, but it has done me quite fine, and I would love to stick around for a while, for many reasons. How long do you think I got?" Again I was taken aback, and in the back of my mind wondered if Victor was testing me in some sort of way. "Victor, you have told me that a life grant can be 4 to 6 months, rarely up to a year. And she warned you that if you do too much, it will shorten your time anyway. So what is more important to you?" "Well, I guess that will depend on what happens." "Victor," my voice now was betraying some of my emotion, "it's kind of wonderful that she's waiting there for you, though I don't wish you to go." Yes, that is true. Birth and death, wonderful things. Still, I hate being a baby. It's such a frustrating and messy business." Victor then told me he would talk this all over with Cora, when she woke up, and I went about my day. The next few weeks were busy ones in both our lives. We were having some beautiful fall days, yet somehow underneath the beauty and the bustle of San Francisco, there was a strange feeling, almost like we were all holding our breath. Quite a few people, and certainly myself, thought that perhaps this would mean another great earthquake. Of course, in the back of my mind rang the words of the goddess. I woke up early on the day of September 11th, 2001, and had the feeling to turn on the TV, which was odd. I usually didn't turn on the TV first thing in the morning. The first plane had just hit, and the newscasters were still trying to figure out what was happening to cause such a terrible thing, because according to witnesses, it appeared that this was a deliberate action. It was not long before the second plane came into view. My husband and I watched horrified as the terrible scene unfolded and the news of other planes in trouble were reported. I called Victor. He tells me that he cannot speak long, that this was far from over, and he must prepare himself for what surely will come. What are you going to do? I ask. He tells me that he fears that many, many have and will die, and there will be many more, and he wants to help the souls that might be in shock by such an unexpected passing, and those that will be terrified or in pain while passing. Don't these people have their own guides or families or angels to help them? I was a little confused. Well, sure, he said, in simpler times, when most people on earth believed in the ways of birth and death in a similar way, and that death was by nature or by battle, these things were much more easily handled. But now we humans have become very complex. Things are not so cut and dry. And also, people can die in such shocking and unexpected ways. The soul can go into a type of shock and go into a soul sleep, sometimes for years. I want to help these people as best I can. Call me tomorrow. In the course of a few hours, all the horror unfolded, and I thought about what I had been taught or read about in astral travel, and I wondered how much strain Victor was already experiencing. I called the next day, and he sounded very tired. Has it been as bad for you as the goddess said? Yes and no, he answered. I knew what I was getting into. The hardest thing for me is dealing with those that do not know or do not want to believe that they are dead. No matter how gentle I am, they go into deep sorrow and sometimes deep anger. It's very tragic. There are many spirits that are trying to help. It's all going to get sorted out, but it is tiring. Don't you think you've done enough? I asked carefully. He chuckled. In some ways, yes, but there are still some stubborn ones that need a little more help, so one more trip should do it. When I called again, he said he needed to rest, and the next few days passed quickly before Victor called me to come over. So this is a taste of this book, Victor Anderson. Now, my most recent work is Journey for Tomorrow. And this is what I will talk on next.